Pakistan is always doing chamchagiri of the Americans to be able to in their good books. The American president at the moment, he is personally involved. You would have heard of the crypto linkage that his family, China, cannot afford to lose the market that it has in India, because their market in USA still there is uncertainty. I can't say that we can trust the Chinese yet. China's collusion or fusion with Pakistani military is far too strong.
Hello and welcome. I'm Abhishek Singh and you're watching the Hindustan Times. In recent weeks, India has witnessed heightened tensions along the Pakistan border, major counter-terror operations in Kashmir, and also recently, we heard from the IAF chief about the robust air defense actions taken by the IAF during Operation Sindoor, resulting in downing of 5 Pakistani aircraft. Today, we are joined by General VP Malik, former chief of the Indian Army, to share with us his insights on operational challenges, strategic shifts, and the lessons learned from recent events, including the elimination of perpetrators of the Pahelgam Massacre. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time and joining us.
It's a pleasure, Abhishek.
Sir, the first question is, of course, the IAF Chiefs Statement, because he went into some detail and put all the doubts which are being raised both nationally and internationally. He talked about the fact that Indian Air Force and S-400 in particular, carried out strikes and downed multiple Pakistan aircraft. So what do you make of his statement? And do you think it was necessary for him to come out and address all of these questions and doubts which were being raised himself? Because this was being done at other levels, but yet these questions were continuously yet being asked.
I think he did the right thing under the circumstances, because there were many people from our opposition parties also who were doubting that. I'm not talking of Pakistan and some other countries, but even our own political parties in the opposition, they were doubting the statement that had come. So when the chief of the air staff, when he speaks, I believe that is totally authoritative. And Abhishek, let me tell you, during my time when I was chief, number of journalists would tell me that they would believe what I say, and sometimes when the politicians say something, they don't believe them. So that is the credibility of the air chief coming on the air and speaking out all the facts that were there and giving his assessment of the situation. So he did the right thing. The only thing is that he mentioned about the losses on the Pakistani side, which obviously had been verified before he made that statement. But he did not mention our losses, which is again, it's a question of time. I suppose after some time people will get to know. But either during the war or very close to the war, generally we don't disclose that information.
Right, sir. And so buying S-400 was not very easy for India, given, especially the kind of actions that we've seen from the US as far as India buying oil and Russian defense equipment is concerned. Of course, additional tariffs have been imposed on India. Final decision on that is yet to come. But in the battle, S-400 system definitely proved its worth.
Yes, that's right. And you are absolutely right that when we were purchasing S-400 air defense weapons, that time Americans made a lot of hue and cry, but we persisted and we have got the first installment from them. I think the second installment is about to come, maybe early next year. And S-400, which has got a range of about 300 kilometers, that proved to be a very, very effective air defense weapon. And it was responsible for downing some of the aircraft of the Pakistanis. So this is one of the best system in the world today that we have for our air defense in our country.
Best system indeed, because it not only struck down Pakistani aircraft, but also recorded the longest surface-to-air strike. Having said that, sir, another issue over which some questions were being raised were, of course, where are the perpetrators of the Pahelgam massacre? And as the Home Minister pointed out and underscored this in the parliament during the session, that all of them in a counter-terror operation in Kashmir have been killed. Your thoughts on that, sir?
The area where they had carried out killed people in Pahalgam district, Bison Valley, that is a very thick jungle area as well as mountainous area. So in order to spot those 3 or 4 people who were there, I think there were 3, it took quite some time. But finally, as the defense minister himself mentioned in the parliament, they were spotted, and a commando team of the 4 paras, they managed to kill them. All 3 of them have been killed now. It took some time, but then, as I said, it was inevitable that we will be able to spot them and kill them. And so the perpetrators have now been killed, and to some extent, whatever they did, that has been also avenged.
However, what we have seen, sir, is the fact that along the India-Pakistan border, bad strikes, bad action as it is called, is still being carried out by Pakistan. We might have figured out a way to deal with, the terrorist activities which are backed by Pakistan by, of course, striking deep inside Pakistan. But as far as bad actions are concerned, do you think there is another effective measure that still needs to be figured out in order to deal with such things along the border?
When troops are positioned in eyeball to eyeball situations, are deployed in that manner, some shallow infiltration is always possible, because we do not have posts every few yards, and we do not have surveillance devices which are effective, 100% effective in the mountains or along the jungle. So some of these infiltration, shallow infiltration by 1 or 2 or 3 people, that can always take place, and they can indulge in bat action from the other side. So we have to first, of course, continue with our surveillance and try and improve it as much as possible. The other way out is also to take some deterrent or offensive action, as we did during the surgical strike after Uri. So, or hit them with our artillery and other weapons, which are quite destructive along the line of control. So that is what we are doing. And but as I said, you cannot totally rule out these bat actions. They will take place, and I think our troops are capable of taking the right action against them.
Right, sir. Recently, we have seen US escorting Munir as if Pakistan is their best friend. What do you think is behind this newfound bonhomie between Pakistan and US?
You're right. The fact is that the American president at the moment, he is personally involved. You would have heard of the crypto linkage that his family, I'm talking of President Trump's family, has with Pakistani generals and Pakistan other businessmen in Pakistan. So there's a personal involvement there. And the other is that Pakistan is always doing chamchagiri of the Americans to be able to be in their good books. Many of these generals, they have their children or other relatives living in USA. So what Asif Munir has done is to again do the chamchagiri of President Clinton, who is very fond of it himself, and recommending him for Nobel Prize and things of this nature. So this, at the moment, whatever is going on, but I think it will be temporary, because after all, the capabilities of Pakistan cannot remain hidden. They are, and capabilities of India are very, very strong. So this phase is going on. Perhaps we may have to face it during President Trump's tenure, but I think this cannot last very long.
However, any strategic implications of this for India, sir?
Not quite. As long as we are alert on that side, and I don't think the Pakistanis would indulge, or rather the Americans would indulge in giving them greater help, because don't forget that Pakistan is much closer to China, or China is much closer to Pakistan than the Americans. Americans, as far as USA is concerned, yes, Pakistani generals and Pakistani politicians, they have their personal interest in that area. But I don't think it will go against strategically against us, because our involvement with USA is much deeper for us to worry on that score. But we have to remain alert. I can't think of USA supplying weapons and intelligence, etc. The other reason, strategic reason why the USA is getting closer to Pakistan is because they want Pakistan to keep an eye on Iran. That's another factor. So the whatever relationship now, slightly improved relationship which is taking place, I don't think it is going to matter to us so much strategically.
A consequence of all of these geopolitical maneuverings is, of course, the thaw between India and China. And it seemed unlikely, but it has happened. India and China have started talking. Prime Minister Modi will be visiting China very soon. What do you make of this thaw? Does it give India some breathing room, some respite, especially after the kind of collaboration that we saw between China and Pakistan during Operation Sindoor?
Abhishek, firstly, I must mention here that the geopolitical as well as geostrategic landscape lately has been shifting, and there's a lot of churning that is taking place. And this has got further intensified thanks to President Trump's tariff war that he has started. So, because of that, today we are in a situation that everybody wants to be secure. At this stage, neither China nor India would want to have some kind of tension on the border where we have our troops deployed. Uh, again, getting into a war-like situation. We both countries want to avoid war. The other reason I can think of is China cannot afford to lose the market that it has in India, because their market in USA still there is uncertainty, and China would not like to lose the market, about $116 billion worth of market in India. India, of course, is interested in maintaining peace and making sure that the process of de-escalation and that takes place along the line of control, and we both have peace along the line of actual control. So parties have interest in maintaining peace as much as possible. I'm saying as much as possible because I can't say that we can trust the Chinese yet. China's collusion or fusion with Pakistani military is far too strong, and we have to remain on guard. We have to remain on alert even after reinduction of troops take place, if whenever it takes place. So we have to remain alert, but under the geostrategic circumstances, the churning that is taking place, I think it is inevitable for both these countries to have some kind of better relations. And another thing that I must mention here is that America itself, I'm sure they realize it, but they are pushing us to have better relations with Russia as well as China. Because the kind of statement that are being made by President Trump, the kind of tariff addition that he has started, 25%, which is more political than commercial. Also, they seem to be at the moment pushing us much closer to Russia and China, and that is again the churning that is taking place.
Right. And a speculation also is that before China actually takes some military action against Taiwan, it would want to ensure that things with India are calm, there is quiet along the borders, and of course in the Indian Ocean as well. And perhaps that is why China is also taking advantage of what Donald Trump has done. Of course, this is speculation, but having said that, that does make sense, sir.
Yeah, that is true. Though I do not foresee China, making use of force to capture Taiwan at the moment. At the moment, the kind of, as I said, strategic churning that is taking place, perhaps it is not a conducive period for that kind of activity from the Chinese side. But of course, that's a long term objective that they have. And whenever they do that, they would like to have better international relations, particularly with India, USA, and other countries.
To wrap this up, sir, let me circle back to Operation Sindoor and something that we noticed during Operation Sindoor, and that was, of course, the display of progress in Atmanirbharta in the defense sector. We saw a lot of indigenous systems, weapon systems, air defense systems work very well. And your comments on that, sir?
Yes, you are right. Absolutely. I must mention here that Kargil war was primarily won because of our human resources. Their bravery, the way they overcame all the challenges that were there in those high mountains and high altitude area. But it was primarily our human resource which was responsible for getting us that victory. This time it was the technology, the machine that we have got, and they have been very, very effective. We discussed S-400, but I must also tell you that now we have got an integrated air defense system which coordinates activities of all weapons, small, big air defense weapons, whether they are with the Army, Navy, or the Air Force. It is able to coordinate and hit the incoming aircraft, enemy aircraft, or missiles very effectively. And that is what was proved when we managed to hit all their drones as well as the aircraft coming towards India. The other very effective weapons I think we have been able to prove is the Akash air defense weapon. That has been produced by us. Similarly, the artillery guns that we have produced ourselves, the missiles, the rockets, I think, and the BrahMos, of course, the most effective air defense as well as strike weapon that we have got. BrahMos were very, very effective. So I think we have been able to prove the effectiveness of our weapon, and I believe that many of the countries now are seeking those weapons from us. That is also. On the other hand, the Chinese weapons haven't proved too well for the Pakistanis, and I believe that some investigation is going on. Mind you, while we are doing well and on Atmanirbharta, but we still have a long way to go. At the moment, I think we are producing about 101 lakh and 50,000 crores worth of indigenous weapons. But we still have a long way to go, and we still remain probably the second or the third largest buyer of weapons from the foreign countries.
Long way to go. You're right, sir. But having said that, what are some of the areas you think the defense sector should focus on? We're trying to develop, of course, our fifth gen fighter, the AMCA. There are other things in development as well. But between Ukraine and Russia, we saw the role that drones could play. So in your opinion, what are the top three things that Indian defense sector should focus on?
The most important, I would say, is the LCA. We are now badly in need of fighter aircraft, and whatever orders that have been placed on the HAL, they have not been able to comply with that because we are still needing engines, aircraft engines from abroad, and which are not coming properly or in time. So that's the most important thing I would say. The other weapon system, we are now about to produce a tank for the mountainous area, particularly in Depsang and Ladakh, in those areas where the tanks can. So that is also under production. I think the trials are almost over. And surveillance-wise, we must produce better surveillance devices which can be more effective even in thick jungles as well as. And the last thing I would say is the drones which are capable of using weapons in the enemy territory. We were to buy some from USA. I don't know what is the progress on that, but we should be able to produce those ourselves. And so these are the weapons that come to my mind that we need to produce as early as possible.
On that note, thank you so much, sir, for taking the time and talking to us.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you.